So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. That was a very upbeat music starting at the start of the presentation. My name is Eugenia Morales. I come from World Animal Protection, and I am here to talk about prepared pet owners mean safer families. And some of you might think, why are we talking about pets at a global platform for disaster risk reduction? Well, pets are very important to their owners, and sometimes they won't leave their home without their pet. So that's why we need to take them into account. That's the first reason. The second reason is an increasing number of people have pets, and they live in urban locations, and they live in apartment buildings, and they cannot be evacuated if their owners are not prepared, and they could present some hazards, even health hazards, because if they are not vaccinated, they could spread diseases. So that's reason number two. And reason number three is, if you tell a pet owner if they are prepared, they're most likely to say yes, because that's like the automatic answer, like you're prepared for disasters, right? And people say yes. But when you ask them, are you prepared to protect your pet from a disaster? That'll give them something to think about. So that's a new way of selling preparedness. So that's the third reason. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. What we mean about family preparedness and pet preparedness is actually very simple. It just means that people need to find a safe place to evacuate with their pets. It also means they need to have their vaccinations up to date to prevent any disease spread. And it also means they need to have an emergency kit. So it's very similar to what we do with people, you see. They just need to think about it and be prepared. And at World Animal Protection, we've actually worked a lot with communication campaigns to make sure that people start including their pets in their preparedness plans and start taking these very simple actions. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these campaigns. So first one, called the Thunder campaign, because our main character was this little fella here who we called Thunder. This was a communication campaign we did in Costa Rica. And how this works is that 15%, we first ask people whether they're prepared or not, and then we run the campaign. So when we first started, we realized that only 15% of the pet owners had a kennel, which is this little transportation we have here in the photo. Only 5% of their pets had IDs, which is terrible, which means if there is a disaster, these pets are going to get lost and no one can find their owner. And only 45% had their vaccination card up to date. And what was worse, only 2% had an emergency plan that included their pets. So people in Costa Rica really weren't prepared. And we're talking about a very small country that has about, in the urban areas, about maybe one pet for every 2 people. So there's a lot of pets over there. So what we did is we run a campaign with videos and social media. And we had a video that ran in cable TV, and we also had a lot of messages in social media. And they were very simple. They were just like a dog saying, I am prepared, I have a plan, I am prepared with my family. And we had pretty good results. These are sort of our campaign results in terms of media hits and how many people saw our presence in Facebook. But what was most important was, at the end of the campaign, when we went back to the people and asked them whether they were prepared or not, the numbers increased significantly. So you will see here, we moved from 18% to 33% of people having kennel, from 5 to 20% of people having ID tags, and from the 2% to 21% of people now had emergency plans. I mean, this is not just a result of the campaign, of course. This is the result of people being much more aware. But this is definitely a show that when we talk to people about their pets, they're gonna listen. And we run something similar here in Mexico City. As you may know, in 1985, there was a very big earthquake in Mexico City, and 30 years later, they had the 30-year commemoration anniversary, and they ran this campaign, and they had this earthquake drill, national earthquake drill. So we wanted to take this opportunity to make people start thinking about pet preparedness related to earthquakes. So we ran this campaign, and it's called MX30 because, of course, it's the 30th anniversary of the earthquake. And we did something very similar to what we did in Costa Rica. First, we went to people and asked them, are you prepared? Do you have a kennel? Do you have an emergency plan? And this is what they answered. Again, only 8% said they had an emergency plan, only 16% had a kennel, and only 7% of the pets were identified. And this is something very cheap, like having an ID tag can be maybe like $2. So this is something we want people to do as well. So we went to the campaign, and I'm going to show you a little video here. First of all, let me say that no pet was harmed with making this video. He was very safe all the time. And what he says in the end is, any one of us can have its worst day after a disaster, your pet too. And what we wanted was to tell the story of a dog who got lost after a disaster. Because we wanted pet owners to start thinking about how, if their pets are not ID'd, if they don't have a plan, they could get lost after a disaster. So we wanted to make it very dramatic to get the people's attention. This was actually a video we used for another campaign. It's more related to floods, but I'll get into that in a minute. But what we did in Mexico was we had very small videos with tips for pet owners on things they needed to do. And we showed them via Facebook, used social media, and we really targeted regular media. So we had a lot of, we had 66 news because everyone was talking about the drill and everyone was talking about the earthquake anniversary. So we targeted that and we really got the media's attention. But what was most important was that after our campaign, again, the numbers were very positive. 50% pet owners now have a kennel, 45% of the pets have IDs, and 86% have their vaccinations, and more importantly, 44% have emergency plans. So as you can see, again, this is not just a result of our campaign, it's the result of a movement and people being more aware, but it's very good, and it reflects that people are much more prepared now than they were before when we started the campaign. And as I said at the beginning, it's a way of grabbing people's attention. When you talk to people about their pets, you get their attention in a much easier way because it's a very different message. And they cannot be prepared with their pets if they're not prepared with their families as well. So it also works for everyone. And finally, we did something similar in Veracruz, which is actually that's for this campaign we had the video that you just saw, and that's why the dog ends up on the beach, because we were talking to people in Veracruz. As you know, Veracruz is a port. But again, we had very low figures here, and we ran this campaign with the video you guys just saw. And we also had a database of pets. So we distributed ID tags for pet owners, and they would register themselves in the database with their pets. And each tag would have a number, so it would be a way for us to connect people. If they would find a pet, you didn't need to have your information here. It would just have a quick response code and a number, and they could reach you. So you didn't have your personal information in the tag, just this number. So it's a way to make people feel safer about tagging their pets, but it's also a way to keep records of everything. And it went very well. Again, we had very good results in terms of our social media. We mostly do things digital now, of course, because it's the most affordable and it's the best way to reach our target audience. But we also run some campaigns in Veracruz in malls. So we were there, we were talking to people, we were explaining the campaign, we were telling people about the importance of pet preparedness and distributing the ID tags as well. And again, we also had very good results with this campaign as well. This was a very short campaign, just 2 months, but we did see some increase in the numbers here for the people. And we run this with the local university, the School of Veterinary Medicine, because we want to make sure that whatever we do has a local resonance to it, and it has some continuancy. Because, I mean, if they're talking about the university, if they're talking to the local university, it gives more a sense of local and empowerment for the people of Veracruz. And I think that was it for me. What I want you to leave with, if I can just leave you with one key message, is prepared pets do actually mean safer families. Because if we start to talk about pets and we start to make sure that people are prepared with their pets, they're going to be prepared themselves, and we're going to have safer families. And for most of us, for most of the people who have pets, they're actually part of the family, so it just makes sense. And I think we have a couple of minutes if anyone has a question. If not, thank you very much for listening. I know it's the end of the day, but thank you very much for joining. If you want more information, I am available anytime. Thanks.